What do avoidants actually do? And why does their behavior feel like rejection, even when it's not personal? Welcome to the Campbell and Amanda podcast. My name is Campbell, and we're diving deep into this discussion today.
And my name is Amanda. And you like this academic conversation, so we're going to keep at it. Right?
Yes, we've had a very good response to the last one that we did. So we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into what avoidants actually do and how to navigate that relationship if you're involved with an avoidant or if you're an avoidant yourself and are looking for a way to get better. Mm-hmm. All right. You want to get started by maybe just letting us know what the avoidant attachment style is?
Yes. So we mentioned in a previous podcast, the avoidant attachment style is a relational pattern developed in childhood where emotional closeness feels unsafe, uncomfortable, or overwhelming, leading to a preference for independence over vulnerability.
All right. So let's dive into things that avoidants do. And we actually have 5 things that we want to zero in on today. What avoidants do and why it feels like rejection. Here's thing number 1. You want to go?
They withdraw emotionally during conflict. And again, we talked about this. It's a stress response. Mm-hmm. Again, they've been conditioned to do this. You want resolution, they want space. So they're in fight, flight, or freeze, and usually it's flight. They're trying to get away from the conflict.
Exactly.
So you'll say, let's talk through this, and they hear, you're about to make me feel trapped.
Mm-hmm. And so as a result, they pull back, not because they want to hurt you, but because they're afraid of getting hurt themselves. All right, so that is just super important to understand. That they're afraid of getting hurt themselves, and that might come across as rejection for you.
Yeah.
All right? Okay. And you want to go to the second one?
The second one is they downplay or dismiss your emotional needs. And so they may call you too sensitive or say it's not that deep. Why? Because they never learned how to sit in emotional depth without feeling powerless or overwhelmed. Again, we go back to that conditioned to walk away. So they haven't ever had practiced these experiences before where they've been able to sit in that emotional depth. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that, again, we go back to what we said in our previous video where we talked about, the environment that we grew up in being so important to helping us develop an attachment style. And for a person who's an avoidant, their environment, their home environment, their experiences and circumstances in life shaped how they come to relationships and how they respond to emotion in relationships. And it's super important for you to understand that it's not your emotions that scare them. Okay, it's not your emotions, it's their lack of having the tools and ability to handle that emotional depth and meet you where you are.
Right, and I likened it to a child. Like, for example, if our son has a conflict on the school bus and we come home and we hear about it, he comes home, we hear about it, and we say, we're going to call that family, and we just put him on the phone with the child and say, resolve it. That would be ridiculous. It's an impossible task for him. He doesn't have the tools. We have to help him to practice reconciliation, to practice sitting with those emotions, to practice feeling sorry for somebody else, to practice empathy, putting themselves in somebody else's shoes and imagining how they felt when he grabbed whatever happened on the bus. But, instead of using physical means, finding a verbal way to address the challenge and the conflict that they had. That's an impossible task, like I said, for a 7-year-old. And if you have grown up habituated and patterned to run away, you as an adult are like that 7-year-old without the tools to handle that emotional connection.
Exactly. And if you're involved with an avoidant in your relationship, that reaction, that response will feel like rejection when they downplay or dismiss your own emotional needs. And we're going to talk about how do you respond if you're in a relationship with an avoidant, number 1. Number 2, if you are the avoidant, how do you actually get to a place of growth and healing? All right. Let's talk about the third thing. All right. And we'll try not to rush through this. But here's the third thing, that they shut down when you get closer. Right? When you start making that long-term commitment to the relationship, it begins to get uncomfortable for them. As the relationship deepens, their fear of losing control also increases, right? Because they are so used to controlling the environment of their relationship. And maybe they're not ready. Oftentimes, they're not ready for depth. And so the moment you begin to get closer, the moment you begin to show signs of long-term commitment, their fear of losing control also increases.
Because remember, they've not experienced this depth before. And if they have, they've run away. So, it's a stress response. It's an autonomic response. And if they're not aware that this is what they're afraid of, they're going to just do what they've always done, and that is reject or abandon. Reject the feelings that they're feeling, not the person.
Not the person, yes.
Reject the feelings that they're feeling and walk away so they can avoid feeling those feelings.
Yeah, and it's also important to realize that there is an inner conversation that is going on with the avoidant, right? So they might be saying things like, what if I commit to this and actually get close, and then this person cuts ties and leaves?
Yeah, because then they're left dealing with an emotional pain that they've also never experienced, because or they have experienced and they've become avoidant because of that.
Yes, they remember how they felt. They remember the pain, and therefore when they begin to see signs of this person is getting close, what if I get too close like the last time and then they simply cut ties with me, I'll be back in that place of heartbreak. And I really don't want to deal with that. And so instead of dealing with that, I'm just going to shut down.
And the other perspective is they could very much be self-aware and understand that they don't have the tools to go to a deeper depth. And so they are questioning, what if I can't be what they need? What if I can't be what my partner needs? They want to go deeper and have more of an emotional connection. I don't know how to go there. Am I capable for that?
And so it's super important if you're involved with an avoidant, it's super important to understand that shutting down is a self-protection mechanism.
Yeah.
Right? Disengagement is actually a way that they use to protect themselves. Right? It is not a rejection of you. It is somebody protecting themselves from heartbreak that they may have experienced before. This is how they have dealt with serious relationships that have gotten too serious for them.
Yeah, it's self-preservation.
Self-preservation. All right. So just remember that. Then the fourth thing is this. You want to say it up?
I really like the fourth one. They show love through action, but avoid emotion, because you did say earlier that this is a positive thing, because we know that there is some fruit of love. There's evidence of love. They may serve you, fix things. They may be the provider, but they just get extremely uncomfortable when asked things like, what are you feeling right now? Or what are you thinking? But they do demonstrate by actions, but their actions that they do love you, but they avoid emotion.
Yes. Yeah. And their silence isn't apathy, right? Their silence is emotional paralysis, right? Yeah. It is just so important to remember that they are not rejecting you. This is not apathy on their part. It is emotional paralysis. They really don't know what to do with their emotions. They really do not know what to do with a person who is loving them unconditionally, somebody who is being patient with them, somebody who is teaching them another way of being. This is all new territory for them. And so they might freeze emotionally, not knowing how to handle what you're bringing to the table.
I mean, here's an innocent example of our son is very affectionate. We're a very affectionate family. And I think we shared this on a previous podcast, that he has a buddy who didn't understand his affection.
Yeah.
And rejected it. Honestly, rejected it. But now when they say goodbye, it's bye little bro, bye big bro. And it's amazing to watch. But that his friend had no idea how to receive that affection. Yeah.
So if you're involved in a relationship with an avoidant, when they're shutting down, just remember they're protecting themselves from hurt. It is not a rejection of you. And we're going to talk about hope and what could happen, what we're hoping happens if you're in a relationship with an avoidant or if you're an avoidant yourself. But let's talk about the fifth thing before we dive into that. And what is that?
So those who have an avoidant attachment style fear being dependent. So they keep you at arm's length. And even in love, avoidants struggle to receive love. I just mentioned that. They fear becoming too attached or too needy. So they create space even when it costs the relationship.
Yeah. And I think that, and I just want to say that it is not just avoidants that struggle with receiving love. I think that the other attachment styles that we're going to talk about in other upcoming podcasts do also struggle at some level with receiving love. Because I think that love in our society has become such a transactional thing that people always are thinking of, if you did this to express your love for me, what do I owe you? Right? What do I owe you since you showed me love this way? And so if you are an avoidant or involved with an avoidant, they fear becoming dependent on somebody else. And so when that relationship begins to advance into territory that is uncomfortable for them, they put you at arm's length, right? They because they naturally just struggle with receiving love, right? We have, and I always encourage my friends, I may be with a friend in a car and my friend is talking to his spouse or his girlfriend or whatever, and my friend just hangs up the phone and says, bye. I'm like, what? You didn't tell her that you love her? Like, what do you mean? She knows. I'm like, nah, I don't get it. Right? I'm like, no. My wife and I don't care how many times we talk during the day. We always part our conversations with, I love you. And it is not just something we say, it is something we honestly, truly believe. And we believe that it is something that should always be repeated. We always need to remind each other that we love each other. So there is no conversation, even when we may have just had a tough conversation, it's still ending with, I love you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think, not to switch gears too much, but I failed to mention something that I think is really important. Oftentimes in our culture, in our fast-paced, entertainment-driven culture, we don't know how to be alone with our own thoughts and to be alone with ourselves and to appreciate and value our own selves.
Yeah.
And when you add another person to the mix, if you're not already like feeling whole and feeling like loving and valuing and appreciating yourself and feeling self-aware that you don't have it all together because nobody does, then it's difficult to be able to feel confident that you have the tools to be able to go deep and to sit in the tension, I guess.
Yeah, sitting in the tension. And we're going to also talk about, just what avoidance can do, because that is a learned skill.
Right.
That is a learned skill. Believe me, sitting by yourself and being with your own thoughts is a learned skill. Because, and you're right, we would rather have distractions, whether it's doom scrolling, binge watching, whatever needs workaholics, right? Whatever I need to do to distract myself from doing the hard thing, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, because this person is inviting me into a deeper relationship and I'm afraid of getting hurt, I'm going to keep them at arm's length. When they start getting too close, I'll shut down. I'll protect myself before I get hurt, right? And we do whatever it takes to protect ourselves, right? Okay, so why does this feel like rejection? When avoidants do these 5 things, why does it feel like rejection?
Because love without emotional availability feels like abandonment on a loop, on repeat, over and over again. It feels like abandonment. You feel unwanted, you feel unseen, and you question your worth because they won't engage the relationship emotionally.
And again, this is where, as much as we're going to talk about how you respond, as much as this is about the other person, we cannot help in our humanity to think that whatever somebody is doing reflects on us.
Right.
You and I were just talking about this today, about detachment and what I'm learning about detachment, right? We were talking about it in a whole different context, but I think it applies here, that we need to learn how to detach from the end result, right? Especially from the things that we cannot control. You cannot control your partner, right? You cannot control what the avoidant partner does, but you are certainly in control of how you respond. You're certainly in control of how you process that information that you're getting, how you process these things that they're doing. You're certainly in control of that. And so it feels like rejection because love without emotional availability feels very much like abandonment. He doesn't want me. He doesn't see me. He doesn't do anything special for me. Therefore, I'm worthless.
Right. He doesn't make time for me. You know, it could be something like that. And you are left holding the weight. You're the one making the schedule. You're the one planning the things. You're the one holding space in time for the individual, waiting for them to take a day off of work or make you a priority.
Yeah, and it feels like I'm the only one who wants this, right? Are you even in this? But you're forgetting, and maybe this is the first time you're hearing this information, that this may just be your partner's attachment style. And you might need to take a step back and objectively look at them and say, okay, how can I help and what needs to happen in this situation? How do I respond? You want to dive into some of those ways that people can respond if they're involved with an avoidant?
So here's how you respond if you're with an avoidant. Number one, don't personalize their patterns. Don't take it personally. These are patterns that have been conditioned and habituated, and they are subconscious, unconscious. And again, they go back to the stress response, the autonomic stress response, the moment that they are confronted with something that's difficult, they either fight, flight, or freeze, and usually they're fleeing. They're taking flight. So say, I need consistency. This is what you could know. I'm sorry, I skipped something. So this started long before you. Just know that. It's not personal. It happened long before you. And it doesn't mean that it's your burden to carry, but it's not about you.
This happened way before you. I was about to say something, but I was going to keep it appropriate. No, I was going to say, blame it on their mama, right?
Or their daddy.
Or their daddy. Blame it on their daddy or their mama. But in all seriousness, realize that your partner is coming with a history.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are coming. They have lived life way before you. And each one of us, even yourself, you have been shaped by your environment. So just remember, don't personalize this. Don't personalize their patterns. This is not about you. And then secondly, you want to name your needs clearly. All right? You want to be clear in what you need from the relationship. So for example, I need consistency. And you want to define what consistency is for your partner. You know, I need emotional safety. Not I want, I need emotional safety. Here's what emotional safety means for me. Because I think sometimes we throw out words and I need you to be consistent. And then when your partner says, what do you mean?
Right. And an example I just gave, I alluded to, is, maybe your partner is a workaholic and they're a provider and that's how they show their love. But you want some time with them. You're the only one trying to find ways that you can get together. But maybe you've never expressed to your partner, I need you to consistently, on a weekly basis, make time for me. Let's have a brunch date. Let's have, a you and me time. It doesn't even have to be expensive, but let's, spend some time together and make it consistent.
Exactly. And it's okay for you to say to your partner something like this. I know I'm asking for consistency and emotional safety. If you're not in a place to give it right now, I respect that. But I also cannot ignore my own needs.
Right.
Right? My needs have to be met. That way, you are not coming down on them in such a way that they feel like this is a hopeless situation. You're telling them, here's what I need from you. I need consistency, emotional safety, whatever that is. I understand if right now you're not able to give that, but I just want you to know that these needs of mine cannot be ignored. I'm not going to ignore them.
Right.
Okay.
And then
thirdly,
thirdly, observe actions, not intentions. I mean, I think so frequently we start acting like we read minds and people's intentions and motivations and assume. And my mother always said, assumption is a couple of things. Anyways, we can't assume. We need to observe actions, not people's intentions. Are they trying to grow? Is there fruit? Is there evidence? Or are they simply avoiding responsibility? So are they taking steps to grow? First of all, have you expressed your desires to them, your needs, and then are they taking steps to grow? Mind you, it's not going to happen overnight because their habits were not conditioned and formed overnight in the way that they respond to emotional relationships. But are they trying? Are they trying to take steps to grow? Is there fruit? Is there evidence?
Yes. And you always have to watch for those actions. And so if somebody says, I'm going to be consistent, you've spelled out and agreed on what consistency looks like. You give it a couple of weeks and they're not holding up the end of the bargain. You go like, hey, listen, a few weeks ago, we agreed that you are going to be consistent like A, B, C, and D, and I'm not seeing the fruit of it, right? It's important to have those discussions with somebody so that they know that this wasn't just a fly-by-night kind of discussion we had. This was serious. This affects our relationship. I want us to grow, but I need to know that you're in this 100%. So you always want to observe actions, not intentions. And then lastly, and this is super important, let them initiate repair. All right. Yeah. And here's what I mean by that. If you're always leading the fix, if you're always the one who is initiating the repair of the relationship, the serious discussions that need to happen in order for this relationship to grow, at some point, especially when your partner is not reciprocating by way of actions, your resentment for them is going to grow.
Right.
You are going to resent them, and it's going to manifest in a way that could make your relationship irreparable.
Right. And one of the things that is a common scenario, a spouse or a partner might say to the other, I think we need to go to counseling. And if you agree, you should take the initiative to do it.
Yes.
The other person should take the initiative to do it. And that's not a big ask. It's not a big ask, but if it is too big of an ask for you, like the partner should let the avoidant initiate that, because the repair can't always be on.
Can't be always on you.
Always on you.
No. And I like that idea. You put the responsibility on the avoidant to say, hey, listen, okay, we've agreed to go to counseling. I'm going to trust you to, we can discuss in terms of what counselor we want to go to, but you're going to take the initiative to set up that appointment. And I'll be there, right? Because you also have to realize that they are also learning and growing through this process. It is not insensitive for you to say that, take the initiative in the repair of this relationship, okay? All right, so we've talked about if you're involved with an avoidant, here's some things you can do. Let's now turn to the avoidant. You are the person in this relationship who has this attachment style, right? What can you do? First of all, we want you to know, like we have said, there's hope. You are not broken. You are not unfixable. Right? Like Marie Forleo says, everything is figure-outable.
And when we're saying figure-outable or fixable, we're not saying you're supposed to look like your partner.
Yep. That's so important. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're saying there are areas that are at a deficit. There are areas in your emotional development or your emotional intimacy or lack thereof that need to grow, and you need to take the initiative with that. It's not shameful. There's no condemnation about that. It's just everybody has deficits, and but you're not without hope. You're not without hope. You just need to take the steps to grow.
And there are some positive things about being an avoidant, right? There are honestly some things. Sometimes some of us engage way too quickly in conflict when we should really be stepping back and saying, is this a tension to be resolved or a tension to be managed? And should I really be expending so much of my emotional and mental energy on this particular fight? So there can be some positives when you're an avoidant, but we just want you to know that there is hope for you. You're not a cold person. You're not an incapable person. In fact, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You are just a product of your environment. All right. We believe honestly that everybody who is born alive on earth, ever lived, was born with and for a purpose. There's an original intent in the creator's mind for the creation of a thing. And we believe that we were created for a purpose. And yes, our environments do shape us. Yes, our experiences will shape us. The trauma that we experience, the victories that we experience, they all shape us. But at the end of the day, when we find areas of brokenness in our lives, it is incumbent on us, because we want to be the best that we can be and unleash our potential. It's incumbent on us that we take the time to learn and grow and change. All right?
And heal. Healing is your responsibility.
Oh, yes.
You can't spend the rest of your life blaming your mama or your father.
No,
you can't. I mean, you can say this is why, but when it's really immature to continue to be blaming your parents when it's within your power to do something.
At some point, you have to put on your big girl, big boy pants on and say, this is on me. I'm taking responsibility for my life. And I realize that I've been protecting myself all this time from a wound I didn't even cause. It is high time that I take the reins and be responsible for my own healing. My partner cannot bring me to that place of repair. I need to do my part. As an avoidant, you need to realize that this is on you. A lot of it. You want your partner to be there to support you, but you are the one who has to sit in those hard conversations, right? And this is where I want to say, start small, right? You need to practice staying in those hard conversations.
Yeah, sit in that tension. Sit and feel what it's like. Feel and be empathetic when your partner says, I feel unwanted. You spend more time at work, or you pick up overtime shifts when you could be spending time with me. That's just one example. But stay in that feeling and feel it, and try to put yourself in your partner's shoes.
Yeah, and wrestle with it, right? Wrestle with it, process it, and allow yourself to feel whatever comes up. And whatever comes up in terms of feelings, name it. Right? I feel angry. I feel anxious because, right? And investigate and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And don't run away from the answers that are coming up for you in your own mind. Write those things down. Speak to your partner about it. Hey, listen, I feel angry because this situation reminded me of something that happened in my childhood when A, B, C, and D happened. The moment you engage in more of these hard conversations, the more healing you get, and the more you develop the tools that you need to emotionally connect with your partner.
Right, instead of running away.
Right? Because at the end of the day, you want to make love feel like a safe place again. Yeah. Any last words for our friends before we go?
I think we touched on it already. I think that we need to be assured that there's always hope and that you are not alone. Again, every one of us has deficits and wounds that we need to heal from. We could come from the most perfect home. There's always some dysfunction that we have to overcome. And there's always hope. There is hope for you to be able to overcome the fears of rejection yourself and abandonment, so that you can learn how to connect on an emotional level and really learn to receive love and learn to give and not be afraid to give.
Exactly. And hey, listen, avoidance don't mean to make you feel rejected, but their silence becomes emotional abandonment. And yes, you deserve connection, not confusion. You deserve closeness, not chasing. And whether you walk or stay, the fact of the matter is that your peace is the priority. right? Your peace is the priority. And so do the work that is necessary, whether you are involved with an avoidant in your relationship or you are the avoidant yourself, right? Let your peace be your priority. Do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, listen, if you want to learn more about avoidance, whether you are an avoidant yourself or involved with an avoidant, we want you to watch this next video and catch us back here next week for another episode where we dive deep into some of this stuff. All right. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.